Hi, very glad to see you on the channel. Before you start listening to the story, write in the comments whether you like the voice on the video. The cabin was supposed to be a detox, my kind of escape. No cell service, no calendar reminders, no traffic or emails. Just me, a wood-burning stove, a pile of books I'd been neglecting, and a creek that knew how to speak silence. I was gone for 4 days, tops. Not a long trip. Just enough time to clear my head, breathe in air that didn't come with fluorescent lights or burnt coffee smells. I even left a little surprise behind. A reservation at our favorite restaurant for Saturday, our 5-year anniversary. She didn't know I'd booked it. The plan was to come back early, get changed, and bring her there. Let her feel the effort. Remind her that I still believed in showing up, even when life got busy. When I walked through the front door, everything looked normal at first. The keys were still on the hook. Her shoes by the door. One wine glass in the sink. But something small tugged at me. The house didn't smell like her. Normally when I came home, she had that soft floral perfume that lingered in the hallway. This time, it was faint, as if the air had been cleared out too fast. I dropped my bag and looked around. A half-burnt candle sat on the coffee table. Not the scent we usually light. This one was spicier, heavier, the kind that tries to cover something else. The throw blanket was bunched awkwardly on the couch. I noticed a faint crease along the middle cushion, like someone sat there for too long, too stiff. I went upstairs. Our bed was made, but only barely. Like she hadn't expected company. Or maybe like someone had, and they were in a rush to make it look untouched. In the bathroom, there was a towel and a hamper I didn't recognize. Black, frayed at the edge, not our set. Her makeup bag was out, open. Lipstick I'd never seen before. Bolder, deeper red. Not her shade. Not for dinner with me. Anyway, I checked my phone, dozens of unread messages. None from her. I walked into the kitchen and opened the calendar on the fridge. A small heart was drawn next to Saturday's date. It was still there, but no mention of our reservation, which I confirmed through email 2 days before. I had timed it to be a surprise. Candlelit table, her favorite dessert, a note waiting by the wine glasses. But that night, I sat alone in the restaurant. She texted me around 8. Hey babe, work's been chaos. I'm swamped. Mind if we reschedule dinner? I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. No witties. We'll find another night. She sent a heart emoji. I stared at the red she'd drawn on the calendar, then walked back to the living room and noticed something else. Her rideshare app was still open on her tablet. Recent activity showed a completed trip from 3 nights ago. Late. 1-star rating. No comment. The name of the driver was unfamiliar. The timestamp matched the night she told me she was working late at the office. I didn't think much of it then, but I do now. 2 mornings later, I was in the garage looking for a small wrench. One of those tools you only need when you don't have time to find it. The socket drawer was a mess, filled with half-finished house projects and things I'd meant to donate months ago. As I moved a dusty storage bin to the side, something fell behind it. A small, glossy black gift bag, neatly tied with a silver ribbon. It hadn't been there before. Not during spring cleaning. Not when I rearranged the shelves last month. I pulled it out slowly, like it might detonate if I touched it wrong. It was light. Inside, wrapped in soft tissue paper, was a leather keychain, luxurious, too polished for my taste, with gold initials stamped on the tag. MP, definitely not mine. And definitely not the kind of gift Samantha would give a client or coworker. Next to it was a small envelope with a handwritten note tucked inside. For the ride that always makes me forget the road. Yes, I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there with the keychain in one hand and the note in the other, letting the silence of the garage settle like dust on my chest. My breath was shallow, the kind that makes your ribs ache. The note was her handwriting. That elegant, curved S. No doubt. I put everything back in a bag, resealed the ribbon like I'd never touched it, and placed it back behind the bin. I didn't confront her. Not then. Because something in me shifted. Rage, sure. Hurt, obviously. But stronger than both was curiosity. I needed to know who MP was. I needed to know what she was hiding behind those quiet, distracted glances. I needed to see it unravel before her eyes. Not because I wanted to fight, but because I wanted the truth to walk into the room on its own. That night, she was unusually chipper. Cooked dinner, her go-to shrimp pasta. Set the table with candles. Felt like surprising you, she said, kissing my cheek. I stared at her, tried to remember the last time she looked me in the eye for more than 5 seconds. What's the occasion? No occasion, she said quickly. I just missed you. I nodded. Work slowing down? She poured herself a glass of wine. Kind of. It's still hectic, but I've been making time for the stuff that matters. Glad to be on that list. She smiled, then laughed a little. Don't be dramatic. After dinner, she went upstairs to soak in the tub, she said. I cleaned up slowly, bought time. When I heard the water running, I slipped out to the garage again and looked at the bag. Still there. Still untouched. I went back inside, sat down at my computer, and opened a search window. MP was meaningless on its own, but I pulled up her rideshare history from the shared tablet. It hadn't been cleared, which was sloppy for someone who took so much care to hide physical things. 3 recent rides stood out, all listed under Marco P. Different locations, all evening pickups, and all ending in empty parking lots or near random side streets. Not her office, not our home, not anywhere with storefront. 2 ended at a gas station down near Westfield, a place I knew because I stopped there for coffee sometimes. My stomach twisted. I clicked one ride detail. The fare had been $12.88. She'd tipped $100. The notes read, "You always take the best detours." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. A rideshare driver? She was tipping him like a client, gifting him like a lover. I didn't say anything when she came downstairs, hair wrapped in a towel. "Want to watch something?" she asked. "I am wiped," he replied. "Early meeting." She nodded. "You've seemed distant lately." "Have I?" She watched me for a second too long, then looked away. "I love you, you know." I nodded. "I know." She walked to the bedroom. I stayed in my chair. I pulled up the rideshare site, clicked driver info, and found Marco P.'s profile photo. Low resolution, smiling, maybe late 30s. I stared at his face, then back at the keychain bag in the garage. I didn't move it, but I did make a plan. For the next 3 days, every move she made felt like a test. Samantha was suddenly attentive, too attentive. She texted during the day, something she hadn't done in months. Sent me memes, little updates, even a throwback photo from our first vacation together with the caption, "Still my favorite memory." It should have warmed me, but it didn't. It felt scripted, like a preemptive apology that hadn't been said out loud yet. And when people act cleaner than usual, you don't feel reassured. You feel watched. On Thursday, she said she was having lunch with her coworker Leah, the one who was always in crisis with her boyfriend. I said nice. Haven't seen her in a while. Samantha nodded too fast. Yeah, she needs girl time. I'll probably be gone a bit. She grabbed her purse, wore the lipstick she usually saves for formal events, and left in a Lexus she never lets me drive. That was the tipping point. I grabbed my keys and followed 5 minutes later. Kept 3 cars back. Stayed quiet. She didn't go downtown. She didn't meet Leah. She drove to a small park near the edge of town, the kind with old picnic tables and walking trails lined with leafless trees this time of year. Her car slowed near a path, pulled into a half-gravel lot, and parked. A few seconds later, another car rolled in, older, boxy, beat up. It looked familiar. The driver stepped out, tall, wearing a puffer jacket and a beanie. The way he walked, casual but cautious, sent alarm bells through my spine. I watched Samantha exit the Lexus. She didn't hug him. No kiss. Just a quick wave. They sat at one of the tables for nearly 30 minutes, talking, laughing occasionally. At one point, he pulled something from his coat, maybe a small package, and slid it across the table. She looked at it, didn't react, then nodded. I clenched the steering wheel. That had to be him. Marco. I took a photo through the windshield, zoomed in on the plate of his car. Low light, but enough for a rough match. When she left, I didn't follow her. I tailed him, back toward Westfield. He didn't go to a home. He stopped at a diner. Parked, walked in, and grabbed a to-go bag waiting at the counter. Smiled at the waitress. Paid in cash. I watched him drive away again. Then I walked in. The same waitress was there. Mid-20s, nose ring, smart eyes. I showed her the photo on my phone. "Hey, weird question," I said. "This guy, he a regular?" She looked, then nodded. "Yeah, that's Tyler." I blinked. Tyler. Yeah. Drives for a courier service, I think. Picks up lunch here every Thursday. Not Marco. She frowned. Not unless he's got a twin. I forced a smile, thanked her, and left. Back in the car, I stared at the photo. Wrong guy. I followed the wrong guy. Which meant Samantha wasn't with Marco that afternoon. She was with someone else. And now I was even further from the truth. When she got home that night, she walked in humming, tossed her purse on the hook, kicked off her shoes, and asked if I wanted to do takeout. How was lunch? I asked. Chaotic, she replied. Leah's a mess. Always is. She paused. You okay? Yeah, just tired. She studied me for a second. We could use a trip, you know, something to shake things up. Histoire de hair. Maybe. She smiled and walked off. That night, I checked her tablet again. Her rideshare account had 2 new rides, both labeled Marco P. One dropped off at the park. The other picked up from the same lot 90 minutes later. So I was wrong about the man she met, but not about the driver, which meant Marco wasn't the guy on the bench. Marco was the middleman, and she wasn't slipping out of the marriage for connection. She was renting silence, and I wasn't going to guess anymore. I was going to catch her. It was Sunday morning, the kind where sunlight makes everything look cleaner than it really is. Samantha was in the kitchen, barefoot, pouring coffee into the ceramic mugs we'd picked out at the fall festival 3 years ago. She hummed something soft and familiar while scrolling her phone, and for a second, it almost felt real again. Domestic, routine, married. But real isn't what I'd been living in. It was a carefully trimmed lie, and once you see the threads, you can't unsee the weave. I sat at the table, watching her fingers swipe her screen with a rhythm too precise to be casual. She looked up and smiled. You're quiet this morning. Didn't sleep great. She nodded, sipped her drink. Me either. Weird dreams. I didn't ask what they were. That afternoon, I cleaned the guest room closet, mostly out of boredom and partly because I needed something to control. Samantha was out running errands, a phrase I'd grown to hate. It meant anything and nothing. It meant I had 2 hours to comb through whatever she hadn't thought to lock up. I found an old tote bag shoved behind a box of Christmas wrapping paper. Inside was a crumpled receipt from a boutique shop in Harrisburg, one of those places with no price tags and minimalist branding. The date was recent, Thursday. The same Thursday, she said she had lunch with Leah. The item? A luxury men's watch. $1,295. Paid in full. My stomach tightened. She hadn't gifted me a watch in years, and I sure as hell wasn't missing one. I knew this wasn't for me. I checked her bank statements through her joint app. That purchase wasn't there, because she hadn't used our account. She'd used a credit card I didn't recognize. A private line of credit in her name only, hidden like the keychain, like the notes, like the messages. I checked her closet next. Tucked behind a stack of scarves was a shoebox, light but heavy with implication. Inside were envelopes, some cash, and notes, brief, scribbled on yellow paper, mostly initials and addresses. One caught my eye immediately. MP, Tuesday, 9:30 Shell Station. The Shell Station. Marco. My hands were steady now. No more guessing. No more suspicion. This was a system. That Tuesday came like a promise. She told me she had an early meeting and left the house at 9 o'clock sharp. I followed 10 minutes later, parked near the car wash across from the Shell. Watch her Lexus pull in. She didn't get gas. Didn't go inside. A few minutes later, a black Hyundai pulled beside her. He stayed in the driver's seat. She leaned in through his window. I couldn't see everything from the angle, but I didn't need to. She was smiling, laughing at something he said. Then she handed him something, a small box. It was too far to see clearly, but I knew the shape. I'd seen it in the receipt. The watch. He took it, looked at it, kissed her hand. She kissed him on the cheek. Then she walked back to her car like nothing had happened. They drove off in opposite directions. That night, she came home with takeout. Thai food. My favorite. I figured we could eat in, she said. Been missing you. I nodded, took the bag, and said nothing. She didn't ask about my day. She didn't mention hers. She didn't know I'd watched her lie in real time. That night, after she fell asleep, I opened my laptop, typed his plate into a tracking database, ran it through a few back channels I still had from work. His name came back as Marco Paletti. No priors. No real red flags. Just a rideshare driver who had a side hustle and my wife on his payroll. I stared at the name, the face I'd seen, the car. Everything now had weight. And the next time they met, I'd be there, not in the shadows, but in full view. The days that followed felt hollow in a way I couldn't shake. Samantha played her role perfectly, smiles, quick kisses, polite questions about my workday, but none of it held weight. Her eyes didn't search mine like they used to. Her laugh didn't carry past the first syllable. It was all rehearsed, all routine. We'd become a play performed nightly for no audience, and I knew the final act was close. She told me she had to travel for work next Thursday, something about a regional team meetup in York. Claimed it was overnight, but not far enough to fly. She'd take the Lexus and leave early, maybe come back Friday evening if traffic wasn't bad. She offered the story like a gift, wrapped in fake sincerity, thinking I'd accept it like always. Sounds important, I said. It is, she replied, not even blinking. I watched her pack a small weekender bag the night before. Too small for business, too specific for casual. Her favorite perfume went in. That red lipstick I hadn't seen until the past few weeks. A pair of heels she only wore when she wanted to be noticed. I didn't confront her. Instead, I checked the tracker. She left at 8:07 a.m. the next morning, headed west. But she didn't make it to York. She stopped less than 40 minutes away, near a no-name motel outside Lancaster. One of those off-the-highway joints with faded paint and cheap lines. The tracker held still for 20 minutes, then moved again, only slightly. Same parking lot, different spot. I drove out 2 hours later, slow and silent. Parked 2 lots over behind a pharmacy and walked along the fence line until I could see the motel clearly. Her car was there. So was a black Hyundai. Marco. I waited. And then, right before noon, the door opened. She stepped out first. Hair down, laughing. No bug. No phone in hand. Just her. Then him. T-shirt. Sweatpants. Casual. Familiar. He looked at her like he'd won something. She kissed him lightly, on the mouth, and my ribs burned. Because there it was. Proof, not suspicion. I took 3 photos. Not grainy. Not angled. Full-on, undeniable images of her in the arms of another man. And she wasn't hiding. She wasn't hesitant. She looked happy. I didn't go home after that. I drove to a friend's place. A guy I knew from my college days who worked IT and owed me a favor. I gave him a USB with the images, the ride logs, a few screenshotted texts I'd forwarded to myself. Need this cleaned, dated, metadata intact, I said. He gave me a look, but didn't ask questions. You want it buried or published? Just archived. For now. He nodded. You good, man? No, I said. But I will be. When I got back that night, the house was dark. She wasn't due back until the next afternoon, and the silence felt different now. Less like absence, more like freedom. I sat in our bedroom for a while, staring at the wedding photo we'd hung above the dresser. Her smile looked forced now. My eyes looked stupid. I took it down, leaned it against the wall. Then I opened my laptop and found the video. I hadn't wanted to watch it, but I did. A link forwarded to me that morning. An anonymous message with no subject line. I clicked. The title was blunt. Offensive. The footage, grainy but clear enough. A dashcam feed. Backseat shadows. Familiar sounds. Her laugh. Her hand on his shoulder. Her ring visible as day. I paused the video halfway through. It didn't matter what happened next. The thumbnail was enough. That evening, I ordered a custom frame and made space for it on our bedroom wall. Because I wasn't going to confront her in the kitchen. I was going to let her walk into the truth herself. She got home just after 5. I heard the garage door groan open, followed by the familiar hum of her heels on the concrete floor. The front door creaked in a way I never bothered to fix. She walked in like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just spent a night lying to the man she used to say forever to. Hey, babe, she called, keys jangling as she tossed them into the bowl. Traffic was insane. I almost stayed another night. I stood in the living room, leaning against the kitchen island. Calm. You hungry? She asked, dropping her bag. I passed that new Thai place on the way in. Not really. She paused mid-step, sensing something off. Her smile faltered. Everything okay? I didn't answer right away. just gestured toward the hallway. You should go see what I got you. She blinked. What? Anniversary gift. Belated. Her eyes softened a little, guilt dancing in the corners. You didn't have to do that, I shrugged. Go look. She walked slowly toward the bedroom, glancing back once, unsure if this was a trick or a setup. I didn't follow. I just waited. She opened the door and froze. On the far wall, hung with precision above our dresser, was a framed still from the video. Not the worst part. Just the moment her ring glinted under the dome light of a car I didn't own. Her smile, caught mid-laugh, was unmistakable. Above it, bold black mat. Beneath it, one sentence on white stock. I was going to get you a photo album. Figured you already made your own. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. I heard her inhale, then nothing. When she finally turned the corner back into the hallway, her face was pale. What is that? You tell me, I said. Her voice dropped. That's fake. Someone edited that. I saw the video. The original. Dashcam footage. Your ring's crystal clear. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't follow. Want to know how I found it? I asked. Coworker sent me the link. Thought it was a prank. She stepped forward. Jared, I can explain. Don't. No. Please, she said quickly. It's not what it looks like. I laughed. You're going to say that now? After months of lies? Rideshare tips you called app glitches? A watch you said was for your boss? How long were you going to keep acting like I couldn't add? She clenched her jaw. You went through my things? No. I found what you left laying around because deep down, you wanted to get caught. Her hands trembled. I didn't want this to happen. But it did, I said. You made sure of it. She stepped back. What are you going to do? Throw in my face? Tell everyone. I tilted my head. You think that hasn't already started? She froze. What? Check your phone. She fumbled with her bag, pulled out her phone. A second later, her face fell. Messages, notifications, social pings from people who used to smile at her in the grocery aisle. Her sister, her work friend, her college roommate, all asking the same thing. Is this real? The video had made the rounds. Not because I sent it with a signature. Because I sent it without one. Neighborhood forums, Facebook groups, an anonymous account with just one post. Suburban wife skips anniversary for quick ride. She looked up at me, lip trembling. You did this. No, you did. I just turned the lights on. Her breath hitched, shoulders rising. You're trying to ruin me. No, I said, stepping past her toward the door. You did that yourself. She reached for my arm. Please, we can fix this. I looked down at her hand, then at her. Fix what? The version of us you play in public? Or the one you dismantle behind gas stations? Tears started to fall, quiet at first. You're not coming back from this, I said. Not here. Not with me. Jared, please. But I didn't wait for her to finish. I opened the door and stepped out, the cold air snapping against my face like applause. Behind me, the truth hung silent on the wall, unmoving, unforgiving. And for once, she had nothing left to say. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't need to. The engine inside me was humming too loud, too focused, tuned not by vengeance, but by clarity. I sat in the guest room, laptop open, phone lighting up with the digital wildfire I'd already lit. The video wasn't viral in the internet sense. It was local, intentional. Neighborhood pages, small-town gossip loops, shared in church groups and family chats. I never put my name on it, but they knew. They always know. The next morning, Samantha didn't leave the bedroom. I could hear the pacing, the muted sobs, the panic between shallow breaths. Her phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't check on her. I didn't offer a word. There was nothing to salvage, no bandage big enough to wrap the damage she caused. I made coffee, took my time, then drove to the same gas station, the one where it all started. The barista knew me. Her name was Taylor. She had this calm energy that cut through noise. I'd seen her once before, joking with customers, dancing behind the counter when she thought no one was watching. I ordered black coffee. Rough morning? She asked. Something like that. She glanced at the screen behind the register. Hey, noche. Jared, right? I didn't flinch. I am. She smiled slightly. People are talking. If it helps, they're on your side. I sipped. Thanks. I saw the post, she added. You're kind of a legend now. I nodded, not for approval, but because I already knew. Small towns are funny. You can be the villain for not waving at the wrong person, or the hero for exposing what everyone else is too polite to talk about. You should sit, she said, pointing to the side table. I'll bring another cup on the house. Looks like you're going to need a second wind. I did, and for the first time in a while, the coffee didn't taste bitter. Later that afternoon, I went home. Samantha was in the kitchen, eyes red, phone face down on the counter. They're calling me, she said softly. My mom. My friends. I can't even log in without. I raised a hand. Stop. You had months to be honest. I don't know you comfort now. She looked down. You really posted that? I didn't post anything, I said, but I made sure it landed in the right inboxes. Why would you do that? Because you didn't just cheat, Sam. You made me feel crazy for noticing. You lied and smiled while I lit candles alone on our anniversary. Tears welled. I didn't think it would get this far. You didn't think I would do anything, I corrected. You counted on me staying quiet. She sniffled. People won't forget this. They shouldn't. Then I walked upstairs. That evening, I packed a bag. Light. Just the essentials. I took down the framed photo from the bedroom wall. Not to keep, but to store. Evidence doesn't belong in plain sight forever. It did its job. I left her the key on the kitchen table. With a note. Don't call me. Don't follow me. You built this. Sit with it. As I drove out of the neighborhood, I saw a curtain shift. People knew. The world doesn't stop for a scandal like this. It tilts. And Samantha was no longer the perfect wife in Instagram stories. She was a punchline, a cautionary tale. I stayed with Taylor that night. Not at her bed. On her couch. We talked about art, books, gas station regulars who never tip. She didn't ask for details. She just listened. When I told her, I felt like I'd stepped out of a burning building barefoot. She nodded and handed me a blanket. You don't need shoes, she said. You need new ground. And for the first time in months, I believed it. She showed up 2 days later. I was still at Taylor's place, helping her repaint her guest room when I heard the knock. Not urgent, not desperate, just present. When I opened the door, Samantha stood there like a ghost. Pale, shoulders hunched, eyes ringed in exhaustion. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, and she held nothing. No purse, no phone, no prepared monologue. I didn't move. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, trying to decide if she was here to apologize or to plead. Jared, she said finally. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. I just need a minute, she said. You've had hundreds, I replied. She flinched. I know I don't deserve this conversation. But I'm here anyway. I folded my arms. Why? She swallowed hard. Because I messed up. I lost myself. I let something stupid and selfish wreck what we had, and now I can't sleep. I can't breathe knowing how bad I hurt you. You didn't just hurt me, I said. You hollowed out our life together and left me standing in the ruins while you rode off in someone else's passenger seat. Tears spilled over. I thought I needed something exciting, she whispered. Something different. I didn't realize what I had until I saw what it looks like to lose it. I said nothing. I want to fix this, she went on. I want to go to counseling. I want to do the work. I'll delete every account, change my number, quit my job if I have to, anything to prove that I'm not that person anymore. I shook my head. You don't get to rewrite the ending just because you hate the one you wrote. She blinked. I don't want a perfect marriage. I just want us. We don't exist, I said flatly. Her voice cracked. So that's it. No, that was it the night you climbed into someone else's car and thought you could come home like nothing happened. She stepped closer. Jared, please. No, I said. I gave you all my trust. You spent it. And now you're here because your lies caught up to you. Not because you love me. That's not true. It is, I said. If none of us had come out, you'd still be lying. You're not here for me. You're here because the fallout hurts. She went quiet. Then, finally, she said the thing I'd been waiting to hear. I thought you'd always be there, she whispered. I nodded once. That was your first mistake. A long silence followed. Wind in the trees. A car passing in the distance. The faint sound of Taylor's music drifting through the cracked window behind me. Samantha looked down. So what do I do now? Whatever you want, I said. But you do it alone. Her shoulders dropped. You're really not coming back. Already left, I said. You just didn't notice. She stepped back, as if my words physically pushed her. I loved you, she said. Then you should have fought for us while it mattered. She turned without another word and walked to her car, the same one she'd lied from, cheated from, hid in. The door closed with a soft thud, and a moment later, she drove away, slow, like she was hoping I'd chase her. I didn't. I walked back inside. Taylor didn't ask what happened. She just handed me a paintbrush. Still want to do the baseboards? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, let's finish what we started. It's been 6 weeks since Samantha left my porch. She didn't text, didn't call. Not after that last look. The one that said she finally understood this wasn't a movie ending, wasn't a dramatic pause before reconciliation. It was over. Quietly. Absolutely. I moved out of the house 2 days later. The lease was still in both our names, but I didn't want the walls anymore. Too much air soaked with silence. Too many rooms that whispered what used to be. I packed what mattered. My books, my tools, a couple of framed memories I hadn't yet decided whether to keep or burn. Taylor helped me load the truck. We didn't talk much. She knew. I found a small rental on the other side of town. Nothing special, a 1-bedroom above a guitar shop. The kind of place where the floors creak and you hear laughter through the vents. But it felt real and honest. That was enough. Work picked up again. I started taking longer shifts, not to distract myself, but because I wanted to build something again, something no one could touch or wreck. I poured energy into side projects, fixed up old furniture, took long walks through neighborhoods where no one knew me. People still talk, sure. At the gas station, at the diner, in low voices behind half-lowered blinds. But not with malice, with a kind of respect. Like I'd done what they were too scared to do, stood up, walked out, and never looked back. Samantha, I heard, left her job a week after the fallout. The rideshare guy, gone. Deleted his accounts. Moved out of state. Some say he took off before anyone could confront him. Others say he didn't realize what kind of storm he stepped into until it swallowed him. Either way, they're both gone now, and I'm still here. Taylor and I took things slow. Real slow. She never pried, never rushed. Just showed up. Some nights we made dinner. Some nights we just sat on the porch and let the sound of passing cars fill the gaps. She told me about her dream of opening a small art studio. Something for kids, something for quiet souls. I want to make a space where people feel safe, she said once. You already have, I told her. She smiled. One afternoon, we drove out to the lake. No reason. Just a warm day and no obligations. I watched the water ripple while she skipped stones. You feel different now, she said. How so? Lighter, she said, but not like someone floating away. Like someone who finally put down the weight. I looked out at the horizon, the way the sun caught the water and made it shimmer like truth. I guess I stopped trying to carry what wasn't mine. She nodded. You ready for whatever's next? I'm not looking ahead, I said. I'm just taking the next step. And I meant it, because healing doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with the absence of dread. The sound of your own thoughts without the background noise of suspicion. The moment you realize that peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. I don't miss Samantha. Not her laugh. Not her perfume. Not the way she made me feel like I was always one moment away from being enough. I don't want to be enough for someone who can't see value until it's gone. Now, when I wake up, I don't feel like I'm being tested. I feel like I'm starting over. Not from nothing, but from truth. And that's more than enough. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.